Hello, friends. Welcome to the patch 7.36b offlaner tier list. Sorry it took so long. The facets broke my brain, but here we go. The B patch just came out, so I've seen some stuff. Let's get into it. Okay, starting with this guy right here, Nature's Prophet. I always like to have this hero in the offlaner tier list, even though he has been a position 4 and a position 5 for quite some time now. Historically, he was an offlaner, so I feel like it's fair to put him in here, especially because in the 7.36 patch, they buffed the Treants, okay? They also gave him a facet, which gives him a Giga Treant. The other one heals on Sprout. It's not very good. And then they nerfed Sprout. They made it a nuke instead of a damage over time because clearly they don't want people just leveling Sprout and literally ignoring the trees. Like, people wouldn't skill it. That does make him a better offlaner. It still doesn't feel that great. The win rate is still very low. The Giga Treant is terrible. It just got buffed in the letter patch, but I think it needs a couple more buffs before it's good again. And then maybe he will still be a 4 and a 5. Omni Knight. So he got Degen Aura as his innate passive in 7.36. It's fine. It's not as good as it used to be back when this thing was really broken. And then they nerfed Hammer of Purity, where instead of being a casted spell, you have to right-click somebody, and then it goes off as if it's a casted spell, which means it still works with Phylactery, but it also means you can't do it without aggroing creeps in the lane. It means you have to walk up to somebody and right-click them. You probably need a Blink Dagger. You can't go for the Ether Lens build. It's just, like, overtly a nerf to the spell. And then I also don't think that the playstyle of Omni Knight, which is like this spell casting Giga Chat offlaner, is the current offlane playstyle. People are playing a lot of Blink Initiators. Omni Knight is not that. His two facets, one is he does more damage depending on how long people stand in degen. It takes so long to ramp up. They did just buff it, but it takes a long time to ramp up. The other is he heals on Hammer of Purity, whatever. Neither of these feel that great. A lot of other innates, a lot of other facets that other heroes got are like really broken. So when you look at some of these basic ones, you're like, okay, relative to the broken stuff, this is just dog shit. And that's kind of where Omni falls. In fact, a lot of these offlaners that are in the lower tiers are like that. Bristleback is an interesting case. His win rate is very low. I think it was the lowest in the game other than Tinker when the patch just dropped. And the reason for this is because his ultimate is now a built-in innate, but you go for one of the facets and it nerfs the damage from it and gives you attack speed, or you go for the other facet and it nerfs the fact that his bristleback no longer spits out bristles and it spits out goo instead. So it's like either facet you go for, you make the hero worse than it was in the previous patch, and it feels really bad. However, I will say maybe there's some build that people are going to figure out with the goo that is like really broken. It's not been figured out yet. So until then, dog shit tier, where he belongs. Kunkka, as an offlaner, the Water Park, Aghanim Scepter, Bloodstone build was the thing to do on the previous patch. They nerfed all the talents for that. They nerfed this generally. It's not good anymore. Well, I'm sure it's still fine. If you're going to play Kunkka as an offlaner, you probably want to do that, but there's way better options. They made it so that you can play like a cleaving Kunkka, where they buff the talents for that. They have a facet where like the cleave lowers cooldown depending on how many units you hit. So you can do like a double. If you hit all 5 enemies, you can like cleave infinitely and technically one-shot people, whatever. I think that build has sucked since they made it so that cleave considers armor. So you can't just do a ton of pure damage to people by cleaving creeps. Maybe that comes back, but that is certainly not an offlaner strategy. That's going to be like a mid thing or a carry Kunkka thing. Getting into the D tier, we have Razor. This is a hero where definitely, like, relative to the other facets and passives in the game, his are pretty bad. So he no longer gains move speed from his ability, and he gains move speed per level as his innate passive. So you're just worse because people are leveling that early. You're just worse and slower than you were before. And his facets are spell amp per damage, which is weird because if you're gaining damage, you're not going for like a spell build. So it's kind of like, I guess, it just synergizes with Static Link because you're probably, if you're going to go for that build, not going to go for that much damage. It doesn't feel like it's that good. They just buffed it in the letter patch because they recognize that it's not that good. It needs buffs for people to play around it. And then the other one is when Eye of the Storm is active, your passive strikes in an AoE, but it doesn't make it strike more. So it just makes it an AoE, and only when Eye of the Storm is active. It doesn't seem very great. But of course, Amar the fucker is playing the hero regardless, but he will on any patch. Visage. This is an interesting one. And for most of the summons heroes, they added something like this, where one of the facets makes it so that you can't micro the birds anymore. They're automatic. Like, That's legitimately it. So it's like a noob facet. It just makes the hero easier to play. The other one makes Grave Chill in an AoE, and you can resummon the birds to yourself for free, which is very good. But the issue with this is that other heroes have two facets that they can go for. A lot of the time, both are good, and it just depends on what sort of game you're in. The Visage noob one is just good for noobs, and then the other facet is the one you're going to go for if you're not a noob. So pretty much, if you're good, he just has one facet, which means there's less options for things to do in a game, and it makes Visage a worse hero overall. And then also, in patches where Helm Dom is OP, Vlad's is OP, Drum Boots, like these strong summons heroes, items, Visage is good. Those items are just fine now. They're not OP, and so Visage is just meh. Lycan, similarly, he got a facet that makes his wolves ghost wolves or spirit wolves, and so they just don't exist. You gain extra damage on Lycan, which would probably make him more of a carry than anything, than an offlaner. You really want those summons, especially for scouting and stuff, as an offlaner, so you're going to go for the other facet. Like I said, you have less options, but the other facet makes it so that when you are shapeshifted, if you kill people, you get more shapeshift duration, which is decent. That's definitely good, but not enough to justify him being like OP territory or anything like that. He's just fine. Alchemist, same hero as before, I would say, as an offlaner. The two facets are extra 250 gold at the start of the game, which people theory crafted like, ooh, Ring of Health first, that's going to be good. It's not, because Ring of Health got nerfed because people were doing that before. Helm of Iron Will first also got nerfed. What are you going to build it into? Armlet, offlane Alch, you're griefing. Buy your mid a bottle. Okay, play it 5. Buy yourself some shit to make the lane easier. Okay, play it as a carry. Like, Alch is actually a fine carry. People are going for the extra gold. But yeah, as an offlaner, still about the same as it was before, which is kind of bad. Chaos Knight. So his innate passive is really good. Anytime he summons an illusion, he has a chance to summon an additional illusion, which works with Manta. It works with his Ag Shard. So you can throw 200% damage illusions at somebody casually. It works with his ultimate, of course, everything. So this is very good. And because of this, people are going for the facet that gives them strong illusions instead of weak illusions, which means they can't be hexed and insta-killed by things. It's a good hero. It's an amazing carry, probably A or S tier, but all of the changes to him are like scaling changes. So I think as an offlaner, especially in a patch where you want blink initiators, this hero feels nah. Like you're basically playing a fake offlaner, just playing a carry in the offlane. Beastmaster. So his innate is Inner Beast, and they also made it so that Inner Beast no longer works on allies, which is a pretty big nerf. That means like he's not an aura guy anymore, even though you probably still want to build auras. And he's more of like a solo kill spell casting offlaner, which is fine because people would do that with Drums of Slom. People are still doing that. It's still good. But before you do the Drums of Slom thing, and then you would also give your team like some decent auras. So you would fulfill both of the roles. Now it's like, it really feels like they want you to play this hero completely solo, even with the facets that currently exist, which are essentially just different sorts of buffs to Inner Beast. Like you activate it and you do wild access stacks on them every time you hit, or you activate it and you gain more attack speed on all your units based on how many units there are, which, like I said, if it's not to your team, I think it's not good. It's just not as multi-layered as it was before, where you'd get the offlaner that's a utility guy as well as the spellcaster. Now you're just kind of getting the solo spellcaster guy. Now we're getting somewhere. Now we're getting somewhere. You know why? Because, motherfucker, the heroes in this patch that are good are very much good. They're very much better than the ones in the previous tier, and you could see that reflected in the win rate. These dog shit tier heroes are like legit 35% win rate heroes, and then D tier goes up to 40, C tier goes up to 45. We ain't on a patch where everything's different by 1 or 2% win rate. The heroes on the different tiers are way better than the previous ones. So let's begin. Death Prophet. Speaking of a 30% win rate, this hero was very bad at the start of the patch. They removed the move speed scaling from her ult, and they added it as an innate, which they just buffed in the letter patch, which I think is impactful. She really relies on the move speed. So does Razor, which is why he feels kind of bad. But the facet that I really like makes you fucking Mojito from Jujutsu Kaisen. It's Mojito for the one guy that's going to correct me. I said Mojito because it's the drink. You steal ghosts of enemies and allies that die, and they're just stronger ghosts that come out in your ult, and it's now global, and they just buffed the damage on it. I think it's like low-key good, and I also think Death Prophet does fairly well against heroes, the carries that are currently popular in lane. but I might eat my words on this one because the win rate was very low, and I really like the hero. Mars, the facet that people are going for on this guy is the facet where you can't see people that are in Arena of Mars unless you're in the Arena of Mars, which is great because the way people play this hero is as like a solo pickoff dude. Like you're usually just spearing one guy. It's not often that you're like, guys, I arena'd like 4 dudes. Like you're arena spearing one guy usually. So that playstyle, very strong right now. His innate is a weird one. You gain extra regen depending on how outnumbered you are, which like lore-wise is really cool. In a practical game, I have felt 0 impact from this, and you can still feel the nerfs to this hero that they've done, a plethora of them since Amar and Falcons have kept winning with Mars and kept picking Mars. The win rate is very low, but I do like the arena facet. I think that one's pretty decent. Magnus. They did some interesting stuff to this hero. Reverse polarity is a facet that reverses reverse polarity. It's very bad. I've seen the occasional like 1 out of 20 Reddit clip where you RRP somebody into the base. And it's kind of like, oh boy, if only Magnus had a way of like dragging people into the base already. Like, what the fuck? I'd rather just drag like 5 people into the base with a normal reverse polarity. I am not behind that argument of like, oh, but it's like the positioning. Yeah, dude, he already did that, bro. What do you mean? Anyway, the one people would go for if you want to play like old Magnus is just the facet that makes it so you do more damage when you skewer onto trees and when you skewer onto cliffs. That's funny. It's like some bulldozing stuff. So overall, he felt nerfed because either you nerf your reverse polarity or you go for the skewer facet, and the damage was just worse than the damage that would come from skewering people far, which they removed in the patch. But they just buffed the skewer damage, so it's not as pathetic. It's like 280 now instead of 260, which is significant, especially for laning. So I think Mag is probably back to decent, but don't go RRP. Good lord. Ember. I think this hero is actually low-key really good. As an offlaner, he's decent. As a mid, he's probably good. As a carry, he's probably decent. As a 4, he's probably decent as well. Basically, Flame Guard is now his innate. It does passive damage over time, so you have this like mini radiance. It's very close to you, but it means you can push creep waves level 1. You can get range creeps level 1. You can activate Flame Guard at level 1, and if they don't have nukes, they can't take it off of you, or they're forced to nuke you and try to take it off. And then that means you can have both Flame Guard and Sleight of Fist at level 1, which is like you're guaranteed to secure range creeps. The facet people go for is the double Sleight of Fist one, where if you hit multiple units with Sleight of Fist, the closest one will get hit twice. It's very good for laning, especially. You deal a pretty significant amount of damage, so I think it's good. I like the offlane builds like Meteor Hammer, Mage Slayer. These are all still decent, but you need level 7 before you can really get active on the map because you need Sleight of Fist maxed out, so that can definitely hurt him as an offlaner. Broodmother, excellent hero in general. They added Mother's Milk, which I read the title to it, and I was like, this is gross. I'm not reading that. There's a facet which gives healing reduction on webs. There's a facet which lets you put Insatiable Hunger on all of your spiders. And also, she spawns spiderlings instead of spiderites now, which are the better version of the spiders. The ones that come from your spiderlings hitting things and then those units dying. So Brood just has good spiders now. People are going for the Insatiable Hunger thing and putting that on them, which gives them lifesteal. It gives them damage. Brood is very good. It's just that I think she needs a lot of levels. She needs a lot of items. She's still a universal hero who wants to go for the all the stat items. This is probably better as a carry, as a mid as well. Tidehunter, 2 funny facets. One of them makes him bigger physically, which is cool. And then also extends the range of his Anchor Smash and his attack range. The other one makes it so that he, and that's as the game progresses. And then the other one makes it so that he gains Kraken Shell damage block based on units or heroes that are dying that are affected by Anchor Smash. Both are fine. I like the infinite scaling stuff. It doesn't seem hugely impactful on the hero. I've not seen people go for some like Satanic Tide build where it's like, I have a lot of attack range. Now I'm Satanicing you. No, nobody's doing that. I know the stat gains are different depending on the facet you go for too. Not hugely impactful. I feel like that's Valve just testing things and seeing how that feels to have that attached to a facet. I imagine that'll probably just get removed at some point because it feels like low impact. The Ag Shard is still good, but Tide is just basically where he was before, which is fine. Ravage is a long cooldown. Dawnbreaker. So, she sees the whole map on daytime, which is very cool. I've seen actually quite a few kills and good information revealed from that. She has a facet that people are going for where based on units that you're hitting, you lower the cooldown on all of her abilities, which is very nice. It means you spam stuff more. Unfortunately, it does not work in an AoE on her Q. So, you could go for some Moonshard build. Don't do that. It's actually dog shit. Play Dawnbreaker normally. You just have lower cooldowns. That's what it feels like. So it's good. So it's just old Dawnbreaker. You sit in the safe lane. You push waves out. Actually, one thing that does have impact, the way she likes to play is, like I said, she sits in the safe lane. People go on your team. You save your team. You cock block. So the way that you're supposed to play against Dawn is you go on her. But now her ult heals her if she's using it on herself, which it didn't before, which means she's harder to kill if you go on her. She can like save herself now. But it's not crazy impactful, but it's something. It makes her harder to kill, doing the playstyle she likes to do, which makes her better. Okay, now we're getting into the B tier, which is a lot of heroes, because there was just a ladder patch, and a lot of the really OP ones got nerfed. We'll talk about those. Vengeful Spirit, she is good. She's universal, which means that her scaling is great. She has a swap. She's tanky, which means she kind of fulfills the Blink Initiator role. I think she's been fairly good as an offlaner since her Ags literally spawns another one of her with auras, with all her spells off cooldown, and her swap gives damage, and her swap gives a shield. Like, she's been good, but people are going for the melee facet, where you are a melee ranged hero, and that means you can go Orb of Corrosion. That means you can get like a Vanguard. Like, basically, in all good cases, she's melee, and all bad cases for being melee, she's ranged. So that feels decent. It feels good. Necrophos, I had this hero in A tier because of a few reasons. Sadist, which gives you mana and HP regen, is now built into the hero as an innate, which means that you can now go QW at level 2, which means that physical damage heroes that would kill you before will not kill you. Like, a lot of the time, you would literally skip his W to max out Heartstopper just because you needed the regen to sustain your stuff. Now it's not attached to that, so you can actually go for points in his W, which is very impactful. And the facet that I see people going for, that I'm going for, is the one that gives him extra range on his stuff, extra AoE on his stuff, based on Sadist stacks. You can get a Radiance and just fucking clear through the jungle, because every creep you kill is increasing the range on it. You can like stand between 3 jungle camps and hit all of them. It's so good. You get a kill in a fight, your Heartstopper's increased, your Q lasts longer, and I've been alt right-clicking my Q to see the range on it, so I know how big it's getting as it increases, and I'm queuing people from like halfway across the map. They're like, what the fuck is this shit? They did in the B patch just nerf the regen that comes from his Sadist, which I think the duration they made it scale, but overall the regen is less. And so that's got impact, naturally. So that nerfed him, but not by a huge amount. Batrider, he was already good. I thought he was a better mid because of the amount of friggin' damage that he can do now. They reduced, or they nerfed Sticky Napalm by making it so it doesn't give vision, which is a big nerf to his utility. However, Sticky Napalm doing 35% damage to towers, which they just buffed from 25%. So that's a significant increase if you consider 25 versus 30. It's like, what, 150% increase or something like that? Close to it. I feel like there's some offlaner like tower pushing shit that you can do that's really annoying. And he's a Blink Initiator who can go for like Octarine and BKB and stuff like that. So I feel like it's actually low-key pretty good, but people are not playing it as an offlaner currently. Axe, he was S tier, but then they made it so that his passive, the Coated in Blood, instead of giving 1 armor per stack of that, it's giving 0.5. They nerfed it to half. Like, that's crazy. That's like a crazy big nerf to this hero, but it was very good. And then his one-man army, where he gains strength based on the armor, was also nerfed. And then also you're getting less armor, so that's nerfed even more. This might be a C tier hero. I just thought he was so good that in the Octarine late game battle hunger build is still really good. Like, I didn't want to put him in C tier just because I know that's really strong. But I don't know, man. Like, these are pretty big nerfs that they just did to him, but we'll see. Sand King, similarly, this hero was so fucking strong that I made like an S+ tier for him. Because you would go Ags, you would get Bloodstone, you go for the facet where Sandstorm follows you, and he was unkillable. You could never kill him. It was like trying to kill a Kunkka during Torrent Storm. He would lifesteal way too much. He would perma-stun you. So it's like, oh, just avoid him. How? He burrows in, stuns you, perma-stuns your whole team. You can't not go on this guy. It was the best hero in Dota by far. Now they nerfed it. They nerfed the radius on his Sandstorm. They made it so that if he's not in the Sandstorm, the Ags does not work. So you have to be in it. And the Sandstorm also does not follow your burrow. These are huge nerfs. but I think it was so good, it's probably still B tier, because the new claw ability that he has, 5-second cooldown, huge nuke. They didn't nerf that. So that's still very good. I think Sand King is still great. Underlord, people are really abusing the Necro units that come out of the portal. When I first read that facet, I didn't realize they would continue coming out. They're so annoying. It's actually really goddamn good for team fighting. It makes his ult so strong. So Underlord, very solid, like legitimately just because of that. Slardar, they just nerfed him. He was also like A or S tier. People are going for the facet. So if you're playing against like some Venomance or Safe Lane, you can go for the facet where you have 100% slow resistance, so you can't be slowed. Very strong against a lot of the counters to Slardar, the kiting and stuff. The other facet where you gain armor based on the armor you've reduced with his Corrosive Haze. Very good because you can get an Aghanim Shard, blink in, initiate, boom, all of a sudden you have a shitload of armor. They can't kill you. That was a very strong one. That's still a thing, but now you're very much incentivized to level up his Guardian Sprint because it's only 10% at level 1 instead of like 25% or something. Timbersaw, he just seems to never fall off. I mean, he's now a strength hero again, which means you can't do the universal hero bullshit, but you just buy strength items. You were already doing that when he was universal in the first place. He has extra damage on his W. People are going for that facet where you use that and it like splinters trees and does extra nukes. Actually, I have seen the double chakram one as well. It's just at the start of the patch, it was glitched, so people weren't going for it. So Timber just does more damage. He's good. He's fine. Good against the strength carries that people are picking. Good against the strength offlaners that people are picking. He's good. Dragon Knight. Oh my god, dude. I'm so sick of this goddamn hero. So basically, they made it so that he doesn't get all 3 dragon forms at once. And instead, they just made it so you have to pick the dragon form, but they're all so much better than the original. And so the extra damage you get from the green dragon is now scaling. You now get cleave from the red dragon as melee form Dragon Knight, which means he's an excellent carry or an excellent farming offlaner. But I saw most people going for the green dragon form, and it was so good. And now you have Dragon's Blood as a built-in passive, which means you just get that at level 1. It was 4 regen, they just nerfed it to 2. Now you also get 0.5 per level. So that's very good. But they just nerfed it, so he fell from probably A tier to B tier because his early laning gets hurt by that. Doom, pretty much the same hero. Build is still Midas, Octarine, Shivas, that sort of bullshit. You now gain extra charges on his Q at level 1, which means you can eat like half the first creep wave, or you can eat one of the first creeps and then get like a Satyr creep or something like that, which gives you options for laning and getting past the early game, which... and now he also technically gets more gold from his Q if you go for that facet, because it's a longer cooldown, but he has 2 charges of it, and it's not enough of a long cooldown that you're devouring less, so that's nice. Doom is still the late game hero that he once was, and his ult is still pretty much a guaranteed kill, which is nice. Oakley dokley. Don't know why I just became Ned Flanders for a second, but moving on to the A tier, we have Centaur, which... for some Gaben forsaken reason, they made it so that he just gains HP as the match progresses. Not on kills, not on double edges used. He just gets HP. This is great as an offlaner because you like HP. Also, people are going for the facet where you get move speed based on his strength. So people are going for Windlace. They're going for the move speed talent. He moves fast as fuck. He's actually a horse. And that means you can go for 3 bracers. 3 bracers Veil is the build. They did nerf these things that I'm talking about, but only very slightly. And Centaur was like the most picked hero in the Riyadh qualifiers as an offlaner because of these things being so imba. And now you make people invulnerable when you put them on the workhorse, which is great because that's what they wanted in the first place, for that to be a save ability. Not that I see people going for that, but it is a thing. It's really the move speed and the HP that he gets that makes him so strong right now. And the fact that he's been good since his Q was not something that you had to cast. You can like use it while moving, you know. Darkseer, this is a weird hero. This is currently a really weird hero. One facet, he gains attack speed. He gains extra attacks. What is it even? It's just like he gets attack speed. He gets attack speed from int. Okay. He also gains attack speed from int. And then the innate passive is that his int can't be lower than his agi and strength or strength. So people are going for like attack speed Darkseer builds, playing Darkseer carry. I don't know, man. Basically, he just has stat buffs now, it feels like. It's just some more universal hero bullshit. People are building it completely normally, and it feels really good They're playing it with Earth Spirits and Tusks and Clockworks and that sort of shit. Tiny, of course, in the off lane. It's good. Darkseer, regular Darkseer playstyle is just strong, but you can actually play it as a carry at some Giga Chad stuff. Late game, it is different, but only because you're able to buy those stat items, and up until that point, it's normal. Pudge, the reason that he's such a strong offlaner is because, well, a lot of the carries that are powerful are not super strong against him. There is like Ursa, which is very good against Pudge, but I think your supports are going to help you out with that. There's a lot of like good kiting supports. Ursa's just a fucking strong hero, strong carry. But Pudge, when he dismembers people now with one of his facets, you gain strength per tick. And it's like generous strength, where you literally heal for the amount of strength that you gain. And then when you lose it, you keep the HP that you gained. So that's like a hidden buff to him that's really good. So they had to nerf this. It's still very good because it was way too strong at first. It was like full healing him. Now it's just good. And then the other facet is now also very good. And I actually would theorize that that's the one you should go for no matter what on Pudge, because it makes his hook faster and gives you extra range on it, which is such crazy utility. Even if you're building a tanky offlaner, that's still just such good utility. And then it gives actually, it does more damage now as well. So I think that facet's actually better. Pudge is, I'm going to spam the shit out of this hero. I'm getting to 10k MMR, guys. Legion Commander. So the facet everybody was going for, and they still are, is the shield that you gain on her Q. It's still really good. They nerfed it so it doesn't work on illusions anymore. Otherwise, this was S tier because you build it against like any illusion hero, CK, PL, Naga. All these heroes are fine. CK in that case is like OP. So Legion was just running around with like 5,000 HP shield at level 1. Now it's not like that, but she's still very good. And the Aghanim Scepter giving you magic immunity or debuff immunity for the entirety of duel, and then extending the duration of it is amazing. They did nerf it, so the cooldown is not lowered by Ags anymore, but it was already really low. So I think Legion is still amazing. Enigma. This hero basically gives damage reduction the closer you are to him because he's like a black hole or whatever. And then the facet people are going for is the one that summons extra Eidolons. I think it's when you get hit. I haven't played this that much, but I see other people spamming it in the off lane. And I've had it as a support in my games, and it feels very good. Black Hole, very effective. There's not, like, a crazy amount of Enigma counters currently being picked, and if they are, I feel like you just are going to build this hero as, like, a summons hero. Anyway, his stun is very good. The Aghanim Shard is very good. Enigma feels very solid, and he's a universal hero. Universal heroes are busted. Brewmaster, he kind of feels like the same old hero. People are going for the facet where you throw a keg of brew at people. It's good. Radiance is still a really busted item. This is like the best Radiance hero in the game. They did nerf the shit out of his ult, but I had him on B tier, and then with all the other offlaners being nerfed, I raised him back up to A tier. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but it feels like basically still this like unkillable Radiance hero who's going to do well in lane. Good with the supports that are currently getting picked. Primal Beast, S tier, God tier, broken hero. Probably a better mid than he is in off lane, but his ult, piercing BKB, he's been really strong ever since then. I don't think his facets are that crazy. He has the Romp and Stomp. I've seen some people go for this, where you get bonus move speed, but I think the ferocity, increasing the radius on his stuff is the one that is honestly a lot better, especially as an offlaner. I mean, as a mid, of course. Well, maybe you're playing more around the trample as a mid, but as an offlaner, like, his ult is just fucking crazy. It was already crazy, and now it's even crazier. Okay, finally, this will be quick, because it's one hero. We get to the S tier. It's Night Stalker. I will say, prior to the B patch, I had a lot more heroes in S tier. I think I had Centaur, Legion, and Axe in there. Sand King, Axe, and then I think Centaur I had in there. But with their nerfs, I put them in their subsequent tiers, and that left just Night Stalker. What's so OP about Night Stalker? Well, he makes it start nighttime, so his laning is just unbeatable right now, and that was always the way that you punished him, was making his laning bad. And guess what? By the time it's daytime, he's 6, so he can just press his ult and make it nighttime again. Night also lasts 15 seconds longer, which is very nice. Void makes it so that your opponent cannot see during the void. It's so annoying. And it deals extra damage to them when they can't see, and then other people can't see them. So you can void somebody and then silence them, and nobody can force staff them out of the silence. They need to build a force themselves. It's so good. And also, a lot of the supports that are strong right now, it's like Crystal Maiden, Winter Wyvern, Disruptor, although that hero got nerfed a little bit. Oracle, because he can predict runes. All of these heroes get owned by backline jumping heroes such as Night Stalker. There's also a Phylactery build people are going for. It seems decent. There's an Armlet Blink Dagger build, Echo Saber Blink Dagger. Some people are going Eternal Shroud. I think that's the worst build, but especially because it just got nerfed, but it was just the offlane item. Like, there's a lot of builds that make them work, but I think just like any item into Blink and you jump the backliners, you make it so they can't be saved. It's very hard to deal with. This is definitely my favorite offlaner to spam right now. Maybe after I play a few games, there will be a couple of heroes I put into the S tier as well once I realize that, oh, they haven't been nerfed that bad, maybe like a Centaur or Legion. But for now, I'm definitely sure that Night Stalker is S tier. He feels so busted. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's the list. Hello, everybody that skipped to the end. Do you like my gloves? I swear to God, I don't strangle people, even though I have these Ted Bundy glasses on. Anyway, that's it. Take it or leave it. I'm probably wrong about a few of these, but generally, it's pretty accurate. So go enjoy your MMR. I know I will. See you.